Hello guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. In today's class, we'll be taking a quick look at 10 common interview mistakes to avoid this 2024. Please stay with me. Okay guys, welcome back once again. So if you're looking to get a job this 2024, then you need to pay attention to these common mistakes when you go for your next interview. The first one on the list is using your cell phone during the interview. I mean, this has been reiterated over and over again, but people still do it. When you go for an interview, please do not use your cell phone. Put your cell phone aside. When you pick up your cell phone and you're using it during an interview, number one, you get distracted. You might get a notification, a message might come in, a call might come in that would cut your attention span. It will drift your attention to your phone, and then it sends the wrong signal to the interviewer. I mean, the interview, it shouldn't take more than 1 hour or 2 hours. If you're really serious about getting a job, then you can keep your phone aside for those periods. Okay guys, the second thing that you need to know, the second mistake that a lot of people make is failing to make eye contact. So when you go for an interview and the interviewer is asking you questions, whether technical questions or behavioral questions, you are expected to maintain eye contact. Maybe if not 100% of the time, but from time to time, maintain eye contact. If you go for an interview and majority of the time, 80% or 90% of the time, you are looking down, it shows that you're not confident in yourself. It sends the wrong signal to the interviewer. So you need to pay attention to that. While you are answering the questions, make sure that you're maintaining eye contact with the interviewer so that it shows that you're confident about what you're saying. Okay guys, the third one, which is very interesting, is being too aggressive. When you go for an interview, that is not the time to be aggressive. Make sure that you keep your temper in check. If the interviewer is asking you questions that are irritating you or they are not comfortable with answering, there are polite way that you can go about it. Don't go about arguing with the interviewer. Don't go about hijacking words from their mouth. I mean, these are things that a lot of people do, but you need to pay attention to it. When you see that you're getting too overheated in an interview, just calm down, breathe in and breathe out, and make sure that your tone is even all through the interview. You are not raising your voice. You are not getting aggressive. You're not getting irritated. You're not sounding rude. You're not sounding pissed during the interview. Guys, the fourth one, this is actually there are a lot of people that are guilty of this. So there's this thing that people say that when you're going for an interview, it's very important for you to prepare ahead. Now, preparing ahead for an interview means that you understand that there are certain questions that they will most likely ask you, and you trying to answer those questions before you get to the interview spot, preparing answers in your head. But the mistakes that a lot of people make is they go online and then they cram ready-made answers to these questions. When they ask you generic questions like what are your strengths and your weakness, you would see that some candidates already went on Google, crammed general strengths and weaknesses, and when they go to the interview, they start pouring it out. I mean, the thing is, the interviewer would be able to see through you and know that you're not being authentic. You're just giving la cram la pour. You're giving out something from the internet. It's very easy to tell. So when you're going for an interview, when they say prepare ahead, get answers for this question, it doesn't mean that you should go and cram the answers. It means that you should have a template for which you used to answer the question. Okay, the fifth one that you make, this even me myself, I can say that I'm a bit guilty. I used to be guilty about this thing in the past, fidgeting too much. So there's this nervousness that comes with going for interview, and right, you are human, and that's understandable, that's normal. But then you need to keep yourself in check. You need to take breathe in and breathe out from time to time, because when you're fidgeting too much, even though you know what you're saying, you start to sound unsure. You start to sound less confident. You understand? So if they're asking you questions and you're fidgeting, you start to stammer, you start to stutter, and that is not a good impression that you want to give to the interviewer. So when you go for an interview and you notice that you're nervous, just calm yourself down. Take it one step at a time. When they ask you questions, you can take a breather, take a 2, 3, 4 seconds to calm yourself down before you go into answering the question. There is no point rushing into the question and you're stammering every 2 or 3 seconds, right? Sixth mistake that a lot of people make. I do not know whoever is advising you, but please do not go to an interview and badmouth your previous employers. It is not good. It doesn't portray you in a good light in front of the interviewer. No matter what history you have with your previous employers, no matter how bad you think they've treated you, the interview session is not the best place for you to start spreading your dirty linen, right? Try and be professional. When they ask you why do you want to leave your current employment, why do you want to leave where you're working currently, you do not necessarily have to start telling them that, oh, my employer is bad, they scream at me, they don't appreciate me, they don't value me. You do not need to do those things. Make sure that your responses are very, very professional. Go straight to the point. Like, even if peradventure your employer is the devil, I mean in quote, you don't necessarily have to say it to this interviewer. Just say, oh, for some personal reasons you want to take up new challenges, or you think you've outgrown that role. You just say something else, something more professional. Don't go about painting your previous employer black, right? Okay guys, I'm so sorry to interrupt the tutorials. I'm sure you are enjoying this. I'm sure you're learning one or two things. I just wanted to quickly plead with you to please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. It means the world to us. You subscribing to our YouTube channel costs you nothing, like absolutely nothing. It is free of charge. But when you subscribe to our YouTube channel, I mean, I'm speaking of the benefits for you. You get to get notified whenever we make a post like this one. You're one of the first persons that will, first people that will watch the post. You learn, you enjoy, and then it's just your little way of just saying thank you for the effort that we put into making these videos, and then encouraging us to do more. Thank you so much for your support so far. I honestly, sincerely appreciate you. Thank you so much once again. Let's get back into the tutorial. The seventh one is actually very common among people that are actually job hunting, like actively job hunting. So when you're actively job hunting, it means that you're probably sending interviews to like 10, 15, 20 companies in a day. And most times you don't even keep track. You're just sending an application, applying, and then you get called for an interview. Please, before you go for any interview, take at least 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes to research the company. If you're going to sit for an interview, then you need to sit correct. There is no excuse for you to go into an interview and you don't know basic things about the company. It's a slap on the interviewer's face. It shows that you don't care about the company. You don't care about working for them. If you want to interview, if you're coming to interview for a company, it means that you have interest in that company. How can you say you have interest in my company when you don't have an idea of what we are doing? So before you go for an interview, please avoid this mistake of not researching the company. Go into details, learn what they do. I mean, look around, search their website, check on blogs, and just find basic information about the company. If they ask you, even if they do not ask you, you need to know. That's the least that you can do. It's the 8th mistake that a lot of people make. So there's this thing that, I mean, people say that when you go for an interview, it is very good for you to ask the interviewers questions, because there's this ideology that if you're really good at something, or if you're really interested in something, you'll be curious about it and then you have questions for them, right? So they always advise, I mean, the HRs always advise that when you go for an interview, ask the interviewers questions. But then a lot of people have misinterpreted this thing to mean asking irrelevant questions. If you're going to ask an interviewer a question, don't ask questions that you can find on the internet. Don't ask questions that just because you want to ask questions. Don't just open your mouth and ask any kind of question. Number 2, don't ask questions that there's something that the interviewer had mentioned during the interview. It just shows that you're not paying attention. It gives you a negative scoring. It is better for you to say, oh, thank you, ma, thank you, sir, for this interview. I do not have any question for you, than for you to open your mouth and ask irrelevant questions. It just portrays you in a bad light. So please, if you're going to be asking the interviewer a question, make sure that you've prepared your question before the interview and the questions are relevant. Don't ask questions that you can find on the internet. If it's something, I mean, if you ask like basic questions, they will ask you, did you not research about the company? Do you know how funny you're going to look by the time the interviewer is asking you that question? So please avoid this mistake this 2024. The ninth mistake that a lot of people make is not reading the tone of the room. So when you go for an interview, you need to pay attention to what the interviewer is saying and what the interviewer is not saying. You pay attention to the verbal and non-verbal cues, right? You are not just looking at what they are saying, you're looking at their body language. So when you go for an interview and you're asked a question, if you need to pay attention to how the interviewer is behaving to you answering that question. You don't want to bore the audience, you don't want to bore the interviewer. If you see that whenever you're asking a question, they're always cutting you short to go to the next questions, it means that you need to quickly comport yourself and say that, oh, I think that I'm actually saying too much than they require. You know, there's a time for this interview. They can't ask you one question and you use the entire 10 minutes. When they have like 5 questions to ask you, you've taken 10 minutes to answer just one question. And the entire interview is supposed to take 15 minutes. So you need to pay attention. Like, you need to read the tone of the room. Know when you're saying little, know when you're saying too much. Then number two, you need to understand, I mean, there are some interviews that when you go to, the interviewer wants to get personal with you, wants to get like friendly with you. They don't mind you using like interpersonal tone, or is it interpersonal? They don't mind you using what's the right word now? Non-corporate tone. Forgive me, the English just skipped my mind, but they don't mind you using informal. Okay, that's the right word I was using. They don't mind you using informal tone, so you can go ahead and just chat with them like they're your buddies. And there are some interviews that you go to that the interviewer strictly wants it to be formal. They don't want you to throw slangs around. They don't want you to ask them some funny questions. So you need to read the tone of the room to know who exactly you're dealing with, so that you are answering the question the way the interviewer wants you to answer it. So please pay attention to this 2024. Okay guys, so we are the 10th mistake that people make is actually appearing too desperate. Now, I understand what it means to be actively job hunting. I understand what it means for you to desperately want to get a job, but then you need to make sure that you are not, your effort is not being counterproductive. So you, in as much as you're trying your best to get a job, you need to understand that you need to make sure that you're not doing things that will not make you secure that job. So when you go for an interview, even though you know within yourself that you really need a job, that is not the time for you to be desperate. They're asking you questions like, how much do you want to earn? You're saying, just give me anything. I just want the job. You're not going to get the job that way. You're acting too desperate. In the way you answer your questions, in the way you behave, they can see desperation all over you. Even after the interview, you are giving the HR like back-to-back calls. You're not giving them enough time to make their decisions. No, that is negative scoring for you. It's a mistake that a lot of people make, and it's understandable. I mean, I know you want to get a job. You really, really want to get a job, but then you need to calm yourself down such that your actions are not pushing you into a pit. So yeah, please make sure that you're not doing these 10 mistakes this 2024. Thank you all so much for watching till this moment. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, and then I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.